Hello, Uta here with a beautiful end of May bouquet on Memorial Day. And I'm going to show you first this beautiful peony. This peony and a rose I'll show you later, and the other peony, I think. Here's the pink one. These all were foundlings for me. I believe that Dolores, who had this house originally with her husband Jean, Jerry, uh, she must have planted these and had kind of a rock garden. It's all overgrown right now, but I've rescued also this rose. I have no idea what variety it is, but it's quite fragrant, and I've got it now growing in my garden, climbing up the fence. And look how worthwhile that was. Here's the wild rose, which of course is this huge bush on one side of my fenced-in garden. And I am now going to tell you about uh, a story that of a trans widow in the UK. She's taken the name of Toni. I'm assuming it's a pen name, a pseudonym. And she was cautioned by the police over there in Britain after a stay in a psychiatric hospital, the trauma of which was originated. It originated in this cross-dressing ex-partner. They're calling him. Maybe they weren't married. Um, and so this is one of the stories that includes some abuse and a little bit of shocking things. And to me, it sounds like this guy has been involved in sort of the prostitution circle and the kind of absurd, obsessive, and exploitative sexual practices which some of these obsessed men get into. And so he exploited her. And so for this one, well, for all of my videos, I would not recommend that you have any children in the background. Because anyway, yeah, it is what it is. But I wanted to get this to you, and I wanted to thank all my new subscribers and all of my wonderful old subscribers. All of you have been so supportive. Remember that if you get overtly religious or overtly critical in the comments, then the comments will just be removed. And I'm saying this right now to head off any comments that will say that this woman stayed too long and why didn't she get out, and she brought it on herself or something, because it's just not like that. When you are gaslit and you are with a narcissist who is, in this case, also a sociopath, you have been ritually conditioned and manipulated. You have something like Stockholm syndrome. You are walking on eggshells. You are afraid to tell people what you're going through because you're so embarrassed. And issues like self-harm and things come up in this true tale. And I just want to say that there's a very middle class trans widow that I featured. I believe I called her Portia for this, although she might have been Ophelia. There are so many of us now here that I have to really look at my notes to remember which is which. I'm going to actually start keeping some statistics. None of it, of course, would be considered by psychiatrists or whatever to be statistically significant. But to me, the number of times that a trans widow is relaying to me that she was physically afraid of her husband or of her partner and had to make all kinds of efforts to protect herself. And then we're in this climate now where men like those guys are going into women's shelters purposely because vulnerable women are there. and they are seeking narcissistic fuel for their fetish at the very least. There have been stories in Canada, in the US, in United Kingdom of men in women's shelters exposing themselves and sexually harassing and sometimes sexually assaulting those vulnerable women. So if you can't trust a women's shelter when you need to get out of an abusive and dangerous situation, then where are we at now? Oh, yes. I also wanted to mention that um, I'm doing well. Thank you to my new subscribers and my old subscribers who are so supportive. Um, I am proud of myself with how well I'm doing with this bouquet and everything, because I'm going to put it out uh, at the cemetery where I have a special garden that I call Richard's Bend. I'm going to put this at a grave of a woman who died 200 years ago at a very young age. I've sort of adopted her grave. And it happens that it's Memorial Day, and it is exactly 15 years since my then 90-year-old father died. And I feel him every time I show you my beautiful flowers because he was so proud of his flower garden. And he got that from his mother, my Grandma Jenny. So now I've procrastinated enough before the difficult material here, but which the true tale of which does need to be told. So here we go. This is from Redux, REDUXX. I think it's .com. Oh, by the way, my blog is Uta Hagen, like my name, grasswidow.wordpress.com, and there's a contact form there. And you can write me your story if you've been affected like this by the cross-sex ideology. The woman who was abused by her trans-identifying former partner and sought help at a National Health Service hospital has been contacted by the police. This is in the UK, where they follow up with some reports if someone says you insulted them verbally. Okay. Contacted by the police over her alleged misgendering of a non-binary patient on the female ward. Toni met her former partner, a keen bodybuilder, in 2017. A year into the relationship, she discovered he had a proclivity for wearing women's clothing, and he expressed his intention to fully transition. We know that there's no such thing as that. You can ideate that you are the opposite sex, but you can never fully be the opposite sex. Doctors need to start telling the truth about that. Soon after that, Toni's partner became very controlling and both physically and sexually abusive. On one occasion, he strangled her until she passed out. On another, he sprayed a cleaning disinfectant down her throat. Now, it doesn't say here whether she called the police and whether there has been a case against him, because this guy should be in jail. This is attempted murder. He also forced her to have sex with other men, one of whom caused her a serious internal injury. Now, and apparently he was acting in the role of a pimp, taking money. So, again, she is a very vulnerable woman. Refuges that are supposed to be for women are not solely for women in the climate that we're in. And so what choice does she have? Maybe she didn't have a relative or a friend that she could escape to. Eventually, Toni left her partner and moved from Merseyside to Derbyshire. Unsurprisingly, following the abuse she had suffered, Toni struggled with her mental health and experienced episodes of depression, self-harm, and severe anxiety. And sometimes this self-harm is in the form of, say, scratching yourself when you're having a panic attack or something like that. I never, thank goodness, I never suffered like that, but I do know another trans widow who had who had stayed for 10 years. She is, I believe, Ophelia in my earlier videos, and uh, she really had to get help. And she had a daughter who was also engaging in self-harm. So in January of 2023, after a period of self-harming, she sought help from Chesterfield Royal Hospital. She was admitted to the hospital's psychiatric facility and was, of course, accommodated in the female unit. She spent several weeks there, during which time she befriended a few of the other women in the unit, one of whom, unbeknown to Toni, identifies as non-binary. This patient became enraged after overhearing Toni talking about her abusive trans-identified former partner. Now, um, yeah, I don't know what to say about that woman who considers herself non-binary. I know someone in my town who does that, and she is also verbally abusive to people. I overheard her yelling at the mayor once. Okay. The patient, this is the non-binary patient, standing in the unit's communal area, was screaming at the top of her lungs about trans rights and shouting that trans women are women. Toni knew the outburst was directed at her and told the patient, "Go and get raped by one and tell me how much of a woman they are." I think that's a sign that she's recovering. And for some reason, this logical statement was found to be some kind of violation. So the following day, Toni had an argument with a unit nurse who insisted that the patient in question, the non-binary patient in question, was not a woman but non-binary, despite her being in the female unit. Toni told Redux that gaslighting affects me in a strange way because of my experience. How was this hospital, on the one hand, supposed to treat me for my trauma, which they understood was caused by a transgender male and a violent transgender male, and on the other, argue with me that a woman was not a woman? She wanted to leave the hospital following this incident as she felt increasingly distrustful of the staff. And this is a problem because how do you check yourself into any kind of a facility when you've been through what I and some of our women in this community have been through? How do you check yourself in to a place, which is what you do if you're feeling like you're going to harm yourself, or if you're feeling any kind of suicidal ideation? That is the wise thing to do, because suicide is unethical, and you're not going to put the people around you through that. You're going to seek help. Oh, gosh. A month after she was discharged, Toni was contacted by the Derbyshire Police and informed that she was required to attend the station for a formal interview. Can you imagine being a policeman and looking through this? They have the letter here, but it's too small for me to read. The letter she received accused her of a public order offense in which she directed words deemed offensive towards another individual on the ward. My advice is to get in touch with Lawrence Fox over there, who has a channel on YouTube called Reclaim. I think he's started a political party called Reclaim. And, I would try to get some press on this if she's, willing and able to appear. This is why I tell the stories in my voice. It's not easy, but I'm doing well today. Things are going well. I really appreciate all of your supportive comments. But to continue with this traumatic story, Toni said, I really think she's gaining her strength. The fact that the police are able to harass women because of their speech is frightening. There's nothing I said that is criminal, but it does worry me that they are doing this to women. A patient on a psychiatric ward who was receiving treatment for a serious mental illness caused by trauma is being subjected to a police investigation because she offended one of the NHS nurses responsible for her care by refusing to believe in gender ideology. And this is probably Genevieve Gluck, or I'm not sure, it didn't give credit, but Redux makes the comment, "We are truly through the looking glass." And one note for the new subscribers, Lime Soda Films YouTube channel is a good place to go for the trailer of the documentary about us, which I appear in, and which Juliet is going to appear in. This is the filmmaker Vaishnavi Sundar. On Lime Soda Films channel is her four-part series Dysphoric, for which she was uninvited from film awards. I forget what they're called, festivals. So yeah, check that out. The film about trans widows, which I will be in, is called Behind the Looking Glass. And it's a slog for her to go through our stuff. It's a real slog. All right, so back out to the peonies.